Do you ever feel unsupported, like life is a struggle and no one seems to care? A feeling of lack of support is so common. Pretty much everyone I've ever met has experienced this feeling at some point in their lives. You hear about teens living out on the streets, joining gangs because they feel like they have nowhere else to turn. Single moms struggling to hold down 2 jobs just to feed their kids. Men working non-stop from dawn to dusk who feel like they are the only one who can keep their company solvent. Elderly people living off of cat food because their expenses outweigh their meager income. People feel unsupported by their families, their spouses, their ex-spouses, co-workers, bosses, the bank teller, the automated voice recording, their government, who or whatever. People feel unsupported by life itself. Personally, a feeling of lack of support was one of my biggest challenges to overcome when I began my own healing journey. At that time, I felt unsupported on every level of being, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Physically, it was a struggle for me just to get by. Having enough money to pay the rent on time was cause for celebration. And anything over and above the bill money felt like an absolute miracle to me. Mentally, I felt like an alien in a foreign land. Everywhere I went, people told me my thoughts and beliefs were weird, strange, absurd, even crazy. Now, I had read some spiritual books, so I was pretty sure that there must be someone out there who thought the way that I did. But for the life of me, I could not seem to attract a meeting of the minds. Emotionally, I felt like a thirsty Bedouin searching the desert endlessly for just a drop of water. Someone, anyone, who would just listen for 5 seconds and really hear me. And instead, I attracted men who were emotionally unavailable. Self-centered friends who disappeared the moment I had a crisis. And people who genuinely didn't want to hear about my suffering. Or even worse, people who wanted to lecture, rationalize, advise, fix, pity, or say, "I told you so." None of which I found to be remotely helpful. Spiritually, I felt like I'd gotten the short end of the stick. Here, there were all these people who had found inner peace. They were staring at me from the pages of the monthly yoga journal. They were running ads in Awareness magazine and speaking on stage at the Whole Life Expo. And I was still stuck in misery. It seemed like the universal laws didn't work for me, like my prayers weren't being answered. I was somehow a spiritual failure. When I began to take 100% responsibility for creating my own life, I began to see that the laws worked perfectly. I just didn't care very much for the results. I had created the mess that I was in because I had been holding on to some deeply entrenched beliefs, totally fear-based, irrational beliefs about my source of support. Some of my beliefs were beliefs that my mother had held, that my mother's mother had held before her, and that my mother's mother had held before her. There was a belief that went, "The man in my life does not support me." I had to have a lot of compassion for my grandmother and my mother, as well as myself, for how that belief worked out for us. Think about your own life. In what areas or ways do you feel unsupported? I encourage you to take a few moments to spend some time reflecting on this in your own highest good. Here's the soul level truth. Your source of support is within. You are a part of and connected to an infinite supply of divine support. As the sun supports each ray of light to shine, your source energy supports you to thrive on every level of being. The universal law states, as within, so without. As you claim that you are self-supporting from within, all the support you could ever need right inside of you, your outer world reality will totally transform to reflect your new beliefs. Because I now believe that I'm supported from within, all of my needs are met with grace and ease. You too are worthy of being supported on every level of being. You are whole, and therefore you contain all of the necessary resources to be self-sustaining, to feel divinely supported by your source is your birthright. Claim it now. Let go of the lack and blame by taking full 100% responsibility for yourself as your own source of support. Say, I am divinely supported from within. I am fully supported in every way. Action step. Let go of blaming others for not supporting you and take 100% responsibility for your own support. Declaration. I am divinely supported from within. I now take full responsibility for my own support. I support myself. I am internally supported on every level of being. Breathe it in. Many blessings of joy and vibrant freedom